Hello, friend. For this practice, you may want a couple of blocks for support. Other than that, we will go ahead and get started in a seated position. You can start by inhaling your arms up overhead and exhaling back to heart center. Inhaling arms up overhead, back to heart center. Once more, arms up overhead, back to heart center. Arms up overhead, and this time placing your right hand on the mat, leaning over with your left hand, opening up in your left side body. You can find movement here or remain still, creating space in your side body. Inhaling and exhaling your right arm back up and releasing your left hand to the mat and doing the same thing with your right side body, creating space whether through movement or stillness, finding breath through your belly, your rib cage, and your lungs. Inhaling and then exhaling your left hand back up, releasing down to heart center. You can begin to find neck rolls, shoulder rolls, finding movement. Sometimes when we are dealing with grief, it's too much to just sit there and think about things. I've heard it said that emotions need motion. So we are going to move in this practice and build some heat in a way to connect with our bodies, to connect with what we are going through, and to release it to the God who hears us, who sees us, who is with us in our pain. Inhale your arms up overhead and releasing your left hand to your right knee. Do a seated spinal twist here. Inhaling, exhaling creates more space for you to twist if you would like. Inhaling and exhaling to release the twist. Arms up overhead. And then release your right hand to your left knee, left hand behind you, finding that twist on the other side. And each exhale will create more space for you to go further in your twist if you would like. Finding breath here. Inhale and exhale to release. You can try rotating your wrists and wiggling your fingers. Maybe you would like to do the same with your ankles and your toes. On your next breath, go ahead and find table on your hands and knees. And you can begin to find some cat-cow here, linking it with your breath on an inhale, finding cow, opening in that heart and in your chest, offering it up to God. And on your exhale, finding cat, releasing that need to protect yourself to the one who is your refuge and your strength. Continuing with your cat-cow, matching it with your breath. Maybe you want to find some body circles here, waking up your spine. As I begin our passage for today, Psalm 139. In the Message, it says, God, investigate my life, get all the facts firsthand. I'm an open book to you. Even from a distance, you know what I'm thinking. You know when I leave and when I get back. I'm never out of your sight. You know exactly everything I'm going to say before I start the first sentence. You look behind me and you're there. I look behind me and you're there. Then up ahead and you're there too. Your reassuring presence coming and going. This is too much. Too wonderful, I can't take it all in. Friend, there is comfort in knowing that God knows you. He knows what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're going through, and He is with you through it all. Once you are done with your cat and cow and body circles, find a neutral table. And then extend your right leg out to the side with your foot flat on the ground. If that means that your foot needs to go closer towards the back of your mat, then that is great. And then you'll begin to release your hips back. So it kind of looks like a half child's pose almost. Perhaps finding space in your inner or outer thighs, maybe not. Inhaling moves you forward, exhaling moves you back. Continuing forward and back, creating space and movement, heat to be able to release what is going on in your heart and your mind and your body as you carry this grief and this heaviness. Once you've finished your last round, take that extended right foot and you're going to cross it behind you over the top of the back of your left leg. And then begin to bend into that as well. Inhale moves you forward, exhale moves you back, bending both of the knees as you need to. Again, finding some space and some movement. Breathing, finding that breath, that life that is still in you. Once you have finished your final round of that, extend your right leg behind you. Toes are tucked and begin to lean forward and back just like we've been doing, rocking forward and back, finding some space in your hamstring and in your calf, perhaps even in your feet and your toes. And we're going to kickstand that left foot out to the side, swing this extended right foot to the back corner of your mat, and placing your left hand on the mat, you'll be in a supported side plank. You have some options to move around here. You can stay in this pose, lifting your hips up more to create some more space. You can try extending your arm over your ear, lifting up that top leg, your right leg. You can try circling your arm, perhaps grabbing your foot with your hand, creating motion to release the emotions. Finding His comfort, knowing that He is with you even through this effort, this building of strength even as you feel weak. Once you are done moving in this, return back to table, and we'll do this on the other side. So extend your left leg out to the side, again, whatever angle is comfortable for you. Inhaling forward, exhaling, releasing your hips back. Inhaling forward, exhaling, release back. Once more, inhaling forward, exhaling, releasing those hips back. Inhaling back up and then crossing that left leg over the top of the back of your right. calf. And again, inhaling forward, exhaling to release back a few times on your own as I continue this passage. Is there any place I can go to avoid your spirit, to be out of your sight? If I climb to the sky, you're there. If I go underground, you're there. If I fly on morning's wings to the far western horizon, you'd find me in a minute. You're already there waiting. Then I said to myself, oh, he even sees me in the dark. At night, I'm immersed in the light. It's a fact. Darkness isn't dark to you night and day. Darkness and light, they're all the same to you. Friend, he even sees you in the dark. Extend that left leg behind you and again, forward and back. He even sees you in the dark. And he does not leave you there, but he lights it up with his presence. Once you have done forward and back a few times, go ahead and kickstand that right foot out to the side, and we'll move this into a supported side plank on the other side. Again, finding movement, finding ways to open yourself up to the light that God has for you in this darkness. Once you are finished moving, return back to a tabletop position. Once you are there, tuck your toes, bend your knees, and lift your hips up into a downward facing dog. Roll forward into plank, and then step to the top of your mat into a forward fold. Releasing your upper body here, bending your knees as much as you need to so that your belly is touching your thighs. Using a block for support as needed under your hands, bringing the ground closer to you. Placing your hands on your shins or your thighs, halfway lift or blocks. Release back down to forward fold. And then slowly, one vertebrae at a time, stand all the way up, arms up overhead, hands to prayer. We find ourselves in mountain as we prepare for 3 rounds of sun salutation A. I will lead you vocally through the first 2, and then I'll let you do the 3rd one on your own. I will still continue doing it on the screen. Arms up overhead, release down into a forward fold. Half lift, release to forward fold. Hands on the mat, step back into plank, placing your knees on the ground or remaining in a high plank. Lower all the way down to the ground. Lift up into a baby cobra, or upward facing dog, back bend of your choice. Release that back down to the mat and then lift back and up into a downward facing dog here for a couple of breaths. Roll forward into plank, step up into a forward fold. Half lift, forward fold, and then release all the way back up to standing in mountain. I will lead you through it one more time with my words, and then I will let you move on your own. Letting this light of God find you in the darkness of your grief and your pain. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift using the blocks or your shins. Release down to forward fold. Hands on the mat. Step back into the plank of your choice. Lower all the way down. Hands under your shoulders, press yourself up into the back bend of your choice. Inhaling, exhale, release back down to the mat, and then pushing up and back into downward dog. Taking a few breaths here. Roll forward into plank. Step into forward fold, the top of your mat, halfway lift, forward fold, and then stand all the way up into mountain. Arms up overhead, and then hands at heart center. We will do this one more time. I will continue doing it on the screen. Move at your pace. Do the shapes in the flow as you would like, and we will meet back in mountain. Going to continue our passage here. It says, "Oh yes, you shaped me first, inside then out. You formed me in my mother's womb. I thank you, high God, you're breathtaking. Body and soul, I am marvelously made. I worship in adoration. What a creation. You know me inside and out. You know every bone in my body. You know exactly how I was made bit by bit, how I was sculpted from nothing into something like an open book. You watched me grow from conception to birth. All the stages of my life are spread out before you. The days of my life all prepared before I'd even lived one day." He knows you, friend. He created you. And knowing full well that you would go through something like this, He is there. The very thumbprints in your bones, in your organs, His very breath in your lungs. He is there. And He is close. And He sees you. Friend, God knows you. And He's not going anywhere. He's not offended by your anger. He's not offended by your confusion and your doubt. He just wants you, in whatever state you're in, to come to Him. Once you are finished with your sun salutation and you are back in mountain, we'll continue our next series of shapes. Stepping back with your right foot into a high lunge, bending your front knee, hips are pointing forward, arms up overhead in a V. Pivot your back foot so that's parallel with the back edge of your mat. So we step into warrior two, making sure our hips are even, our arms are out at a T, and your front knee is bent. We will reverse this, so back hand goes on your back thigh. As you tip back, front arm will be up, extended. Inhaling and then exhaling into a warrior two, and then release into a side angle. So your front arm will bend into a 90-degree angle, and you'll tip forward, placing that bent forearm onto your front thigh, not as a support necessarily, but more like a boundary. If you're already feeling pretty open and spacious and you would like to reach towards the floor or a block on the inside of that front foot, you may try that as well. We're going to do this 2 more times. So release back up to warrior two, tip up and back into a reverse warrior, up into warrior two, and then to that side angle again, perhaps trying to reach a little further on the inside of your leg if you did not do that the first time, or doing what you did the first time is wonderful as well. Back up to warrior two, and once more into that reverse warrior. Warrior two, and then once more into that side angle. moving this body that God intricately made bit by bit, knowing that He made you so specifically and detailed. Do you think He would leave you now? Do you think He would abandon you? I don't think so, my friend. He is there, everywhere. Just as the beginning of the chapter said, we cannot go anywhere that He is not. Going to pivot your front foot so that it is matching your back foot. Hands on your hips, and if you'd like to shorten your stance, you're more than welcome to. Leading with your heart, hinging at your hips, will fold into a wide-legged forward fold here. If you would like to use blocks to bring the ground closer to your hands, that would be an option. You can try placing your hands on your shins or your thighs or the ground. Stillness or movement is available here. Releasing your upper body. Placing your hands on your thighs, pushing yourself back up. Pivot that front foot back into a warrior two. And pivot your back foot back into that high lunge. Step forward into mountain and release into a forward fold. And we'll do this on the second side as you stand back up into mountain. Stepping back with your opposite foot into a high lunge. Pivoting that back foot so that it matches the back edge of the back of your mat into a warrior two. Bending your front knee, keeping those hips even, arms extended, gaze out over the front of your hand. We'll do our reverse warrior and side angle 3 times. So tipping up and back into reverse warrior. Tipping back up into warrior two. Bending at the elbow into our 90-degree angle, into tipping forward into our side angle. And then return back to warrior two and do this 2 more times. Reverse and side angle as I continue our passage. Your thoughts, how rare, how beautiful, God, I'll never comprehend them. I couldn't even begin to count them any more than I could count the sand of the sea. Oh, let me rise in the morning and live always with you. And please, God, do away with wickedness for good, and you murderers out of here. All the men and women who belittle you, God, infatuated with cheap God imitation. See how I hate those who hate you, God. See how I loathe all the godless arrogance. I hate it with pure and unadulterated hatred. Your enemies are my enemies. Friend, God can handle your emotions. He can handle the intensity of them. He can handle the anger and the disappointment. He can handle it. Offer it to Him. Once you are done with your reverse and side angle, pivot your front foot so that it matches your back foot. Again, changing your stance as much as you need to. Slight bend in the knees, hands on your hips, leading with the heart and hinging at your hips. Bend forward into a wide-legged forward fold. Breathing here, again finding movement or stillness. Hands on your thighs, pressing yourself back up. And we'll move our way back to the front of our mat. So moving into a warrior two. And then a high lunge. And then stepping up to the top of your mat into a forward fold. This time, while you're in forward fold, step back with your right foot into a low lunge. Heel toe your left foot out to towards the outside edge of your mat. and we will work on finding a lizard. Before we get into lizard, just begin to rock forward and back, just like we did earlier, creating some space and openness in your hips. After a few rounds of rocking forward and back, you may want to scoot your back knee back farther to create some more sensation and openness in your hip flexor. If that is not comfortable for you, please do not do that. You're welcome to use blocks here under your hands or your forearms. Before you release down, go ahead and open up into a slight back bend, creating space in that heart to offer up all those emotions to God, and then release down to the mat. Breathing here. Pressing yourself back up. Going to release your left foot back so that you're in a tabletop position. Just do some body circles here just to release that heat that you just built up. And then we'll step our right foot forward, heel toeing it out to the outer edge of our mat, hands inside that right foot. Left knee is back a little bit, and then rocking forward or back. Again, just creating space. Finding stillness again. Again, scooting that back knee back a little bit if that feels comfortable and safe for you. Pressing your chest up to create a back bend of sorts. And then releasing down onto your hands, forearms, blocks. Finding that space. Press yourself back up. Release that front foot back to meet your back knee, back into table. Again, find some cat-cow here, some hip body circles. Once you've done that, find a seated position with your legs extended out in front of you. We're going to find a seated forward fold here to do some opposing stretches from the hip openers we were doing. So with a slight bend in your knees, inhale to lengthen your spine, and exhale, leading with the heart, hinging at the hips just like you did when you were standing. Release over your body, and once you've reached your edge, release your upper body onto your legs. Again, bending your knees here as much as you need to for support. Breathing here. Releasing all that emotion to the God who knows you, who created you, who has every day of your life already seen, already done. He knows where this is going, and you can trust him. Using your hands, press yourself back up. Find a seated position. We'll do that seated spinal twist I offered earlier. So inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, left hand on right knee, right hand behind you to support you. Making sure that you're not leaning back. So if that means your twist is not quite as deep, that's all right. But each exhale brings out a little bit more air and creates more space for more of a twist. Release that back to center and do this twist on the other side. Inhaling and exhaling. Now to close for our practice today, we're going to do Shavasana a little different. We're going to do it in Hero's Pose. So taking a block or a cushion, and if this is not comfortable for you, please find a comfortable seated position. But for Hero, you can place a block between your ankles or two if you would like, and sit on that. I'm going to end with the final verses of this chapter and then with some breath. It says, investigate my life, O God, find out everything about me, cross-examine and test me, get a clear picture of what I'm about. See for yourself whether I've done anything wrong, then guide me on the road to eternal life. Friend, this passage isn't saying that when you go through hard times, it's your fault, because oftentimes it's not. Sometimes it is. But either way, God knows your heart. God knows the pain. God knows the grief. God knows the anger. God knows the disappointment, the exhaustion, the confusion, the frustration, the sadness. God knows it all. And as you offer it to Him, He will guide you on the road to eternal life. He will meet you in the darkest of darkness and shine His light. We're going to finish this practice with 3 simple breaths, and then a prayer, and then we're done. So with your eyes closed or soft, inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Once more, inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale to heart center. God, we come to you with our grief, with our anger, with our blame, with our frustration and our disappointment and every other emotion that we feel. And we give it to you, the maker, creator, sustainer of our hearts. God, that you know everything about us because you created everything about us. And you will not leave us in this darkness. That you are with us wherever we go. May we find your light. May it expose our hearts. And may you lead us to life everlasting. Be with us in this grief. And as we have moved our bodies, help us to let go of all that we're trying to hold on to. We love you, Lord. Amen.